Charlie Chaplin sits in the packed gallery of Los Angeles Superior Court, watching his reputation hang in the balance. On the witness stand, Joan Barry points directly at him. "He forced me into that relationship. He threatened my career if I refused." The jury looks convinced. Charlie's lawyers look defeated. Then something unprecedented happens. Joan Barry's voice cracks. "I lied. Everything I just said, I lied." What unfolds in the next 18 minutes doesn't just overturn a verdict, it exposes the machinery of character assassination and proves that sometimes truth emerges not from legal strategy, but from human conscience. Los Angeles Superior Court, Department 43, March 15, 1944, Wednesday morning, 10:47. The courtroom is packed beyond capacity. Reporters fill the front rows. Sketch artists capture every expression. Photographers wait outside for the verdict that will either vindicate or destroy Charlie Chaplin's career. This is the culmination of the Joan Barry paternity suit, the most sensational celebrity trial in Hollywood history. For 18 months, newspapers had dissected every detail: the affair, the pregnancy, the accusations of coercion, the blood tests that will eventually prove Charlie isn't the father. But blood tests are scientific evidence. This trial is about public perception, moral judgment, and whether America will tolerate a foreign-born entertainer who lives by different rules than middle-class morality demands. Charlie sits in the gallery because he's not allowed at the defense table during witness testimony. At 54, he looks older than his years. The stress of constant legal battles, FBI surveillance, and public condemnation has etched lines around his eyes, silver through his famous mustache. Judge Stanley Musk presides with the gravity of a man who knows this verdict will be analyzed in law schools for decades. The jury, 8 women, 4 men, represents ordinary Americans whose opinions about Charlie have been shaped by 2 years of tabloid coverage, painting him as a predatory libertine. District Attorney William Simpson has built his case on moral outrage rather than legal evidence. Charlie Chaplin, he argues, used his wealth and power to exploit a vulnerable young woman, then abandoned her when the relationship became inconvenient. Joan Barry sits at the prosecutor's table wearing a simple blue dress and no makeup, projecting the image of innocent victimhood her lawyers have carefully cultivated. At 24, she's a failed actress whose relationship with Charlie became public when she filed paternity claims and press charges. But Joan Barry is not what she appears to be. Charlie knows this. His lawyers know this. The problem is proving it without destroying a young woman who's already been used by everyone with an agenda in this case. Defense attorney Jerry Giesler, Hollywood's most famous lawyer, has spent months investigating Joan's background. Multiple psychiatric evaluations showing instability, evidence of affairs with other men during the time she claims exclusive relationship with Charlie, witnesses who heard her threaten to ruin Chaplin if he didn't support her career. But Judge Musk has ruled most of this evidence inadmissible, arguing that Joan's personal history is irrelevant to whether Charlie coerced her into their relationship. Simpson calls Joan to the stand for direct examination. She walks slowly, dramatically, projecting fragility and courage. This is her performance, the role that will either make her famous or expose her as a fraud. "Miss Barry, please tell the jury how you met Mr. Chaplin." "I was working as an extra in his film. He noticed me, asked to see me privately. I was flattered. He was the most famous man in the world." "What happened during these private meetings?" "At first, he was charming, encouraging about my career. He said he could make me a star, but I had to trust him completely." "Did the relationship become physical?" Joan Barry's voice drops to almost a whisper, forcing the jury to lean forward. "I said my career depended on making him happy. I was young, naive. I didn't understand what he meant until it was too late." Charlie watches this performance with professional admiration despite its devastating impact on his life. Joan is a better actress in this courtroom than she ever was on any film set. "Miss Barry, did Mr. Chaplin threaten you?"
He said if I told anyone about our relationship, he would make sure I never worked in Hollywood again. He said he had powerful friends who could destroy people who crossed him.
Simpson continues for 2 hours, painting Charlie as a powerful predator who exploited Joan's ambition and youth. Joan performs beautifully, crying at appropriate moments, showing just enough strength to appear credible while maintaining victim sympathy. Jerry Giesler begins cross-examination with unusual gentleness. He knows attacking Joan directly will backfire with a jury already sympathetic to her apparent vulnerability. Miss Barry, you've given very compelling testimony. I want to ask you some questions about the timeline. Of course. You testified that your relationship with Mr. Chaplin began in January 1941 and continued exclusively until September 1942. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. During that entire period, you were intimate only with Mr. Chaplin? Yes, only with him. Giesler introduces hotel records, restaurant receipts, and witness statements showing Joan with other men during the period she claims exclusive relationship with Charlie. But Joan explains each piece of evidence: business meetings, platonic friendships, misunderstandings. The jury looks confused but not convinced that Joan is lying. Her explanations are plausible, and Simpson objects whenever Giesler gets too aggressive in challenging her credibility. Miss Barry, you've testified that Mr. Chaplin threatened your career. Can you give specific examples? He said he would call studio executives, tell them I was difficult to work with, unreliable. He said one phone call from him could end my career. But, Miss Barry, you continued working in Hollywood after your relationship ended, didn't you? Small parts, nothing like what he promised. So his threats were never carried out. Not yet, but the fear was always there. Giesler realizes he's not making progress. Joan has been coached thoroughly, and her performance is flawless. Every question he asks allows her to reinforce her victim narrative. Charlie watches this legal theater with growing despair. Truth matters less than performance. Evidence matters less than emotion. Joan Barry is winning this case not because she's telling the truth, but because she's telling a story the jury wants to believe. Then something extraordinary happens. During a brief recess, while Joan sits at the prosecutor's table reviewing her notes, she glances toward the gallery where Charlie sits. Their eyes meet for the first time during the trial. Charlie doesn't glare or scowl. He doesn't project anger or intimidation. He just looks at her with an expression of profound sadness, not for himself, but for her. Sadness that a young woman with talent and potential has chosen to destroy someone else rather than build her own life. Joan holds his gaze for perhaps 3 seconds. In those seconds, something shifts in her expression. The carefully maintained victim facade wavers, and for just a moment she looks like what she actually is, a confused, desperate young woman who got in over her head and can't find a way out. Court resumes. Simpson has no further questions. Judge Musk prepares to dismiss Joan from the stand, but Joan Barry doesn't move. "Your Honor," she says quietly, "may I say something else?" Simpson looks alarmed. Joan isn't supposed to speak without being asked a question. "Miss Barry, you're finished testifying unless Mr. Giesler has additional questions." "Your Honor, I need to correct something I said." The courtroom goes completely silent. Reporters stop writing. The jury stops fidgeting. Even Charlie stops breathing. "Miss Barry, what do you need to correct?" Joan looks at Charlie again, then at the jury, then at her hands folded in her lap. "I lied." The words are barely audible, but in the silent courtroom, everyone hears them clearly. "Miss Barry, what did you lie about?" "Everything I just said. I lied." Simpson jumps up. "Your Honor, the witness is obviously distressed. I request a recess." "Objection," Giesler says calmly. "The witness has made a statement under oath. She has the right to explain." Judge Musk looks as stunned as everyone else. Miss Barry, are you saying your previous testimony was false? Yes, Your Honor. Charlie never threatened me. Charlie never coerced me. Our relationship was consensual. I was the one who pursued him, not the other way around. The courtroom erupts. Reporters rush for phones. Spectators gasp and whisper. Judge Musk pounds his gavel repeatedly. Order! Order in the court! When the noise subsides, Judge Musk addresses Joan directly. Miss Barry, do you understand you're confessing to perjury, that you could face criminal charges for lying under oath? Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Why are you changing your testimony? Joan begins to cry, but these aren't the calculated tears of her earlier performance. These are raw, painful tears of someone finally telling the truth. Because I can't live with myself anymore. Charlie Chaplin never hurt me. I hurt him. I hurt everyone in this courtroom. I hurt myself most of all. Miss Barry, explain what you mean. After our relationship ended, I was angry. My career wasn't going anywhere. I had no money, no prospects. Some people approached me, said they could help me get revenge against Charlie, make some money, maybe get famous. What people? Reporters, lawyers, political groups that hated Charlie because of his politics. They said if I accused him of coercion, of using his power against me, they would support me, pay my legal fees, make sure my story got told. Simpson is frantically conferring with his assistants, trying to figure out how to contain this disaster. So you fabricated the accusations? They helped me fabricate them. They coached me on what to say, how to act, what would be most convincing to a jury. Everything I've said for the past 2 years has been a lie. Charlie sits in the gallery with tears streaming down his face, not tears of relief or vindication, but tears of sadness for Joan, for himself, for everyone who got caught up in this machinery of destruction. Miss Barry, why are you telling the truth now? Joan looks directly at Charlie. Because when I looked at him during the recess, I saw how much pain I've caused, not just to him, but to his children, his friends, everyone who cares about him, and I realized I've become someone I don't recognize, someone I hate. Judge Musk calls for a 30-minute recess to allow lawyers to confer and Joan to consult with counsel about potential perjury charges. During the recess, Charlie approaches Joan in the hallway outside the courtroom. Miss Barry, I want you to know I won't press charges for perjury. You did the right thing by telling the truth. Charlie, I'm so sorry. I destroyed your reputation, your peace of mind, probably your faith in people. Joan, you gave me something more valuable than reputation. You proved that conscience matters more than convenience, that truth matters more than advantage, that people can choose to be better than their circumstances encourage them to be. When court reconvenes, Simpson moves to dismiss all charges, acknowledging that his case was built entirely on testimony the witness has now recanted. Judge Musk formally dismisses the case, but addresses the packed courtroom. This case demonstrates why our legal system depends on truthful testimony. Miss Barry's courage in correcting false statements, despite potential legal consequences, serves justice better than a verdict based on lies. The crowd outside the courthouse when Charlie emerges is different from the hostile mobs that have gathered during previous court appearances. Some people applaud, some apologize for believing the accusations, some just watch quietly as a man walks free, not because of legal technicalities, but because truth finally emerged. Joan Barry is charged with perjury, but receives a suspended sentence after Charlie testifies on her behalf, describing her as a young woman who made mistakes but had the courage to correct them. Years later, Joan writes to Charlie, "You could have destroyed me for what I did. Instead, you showed me what forgiveness looks like. That changed my life more than any movie role could have." The 18 minutes between Joan's confession and case dismissal didn't just overturn a verdict. They demonstrated that justice depends not just on legal procedures, but on human conscience.
that truth has power even when it emerges late, even when it's painful, even when it costs the truth-teller everything. Charlie Chaplin walked out of that courtroom legally vindicated, but spiritually transformed. He learned that his faith in human goodness wasn't naive, it was prophetic. People are capable of choosing truth over advantage, conscience over convenience, redemption over destruction. Sometimes the most powerful victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from discovering that your enemies are capable of becoming your conscience.